John 19:28, I thirst. In the word of Jesus, just before this, he cries out to his Father, "Why have you forsaken me?" That's certainly a feeling we might all have right now in the midst of this pandemic. Where is God in all of this? And yet this word from Jesus represents a very basic human need, the need for water, the need to quench our thirst. This reminds us that Jesus was here physically in a human body. In the time leading up to this, he had suffered a lot in his body. He had been beaten. He had been whipped. He'd been made to carry his own cross. And then he'd been nailed to that cross, and he'd been hanging there for hours. And so at this point, Jesus is thirsty. Remember with me some time when you were especially thirsty. Just think about that feeling in your throat that it felt constricted. It felt like you're hardly able to swallow. Maybe it was a hot day. Maybe you've been exercising. Maybe you just were someplace where you couldn't find anything to drink. Jesus was thirsty. We can relate to that. You see, water is one of the most basic needs of life. We can live without food for up to a month before we're really starving. But we can only really live without water for a few days. And even in just one day, we begin to suffer without water. When you find you have a headache, sometimes it's just that you need some water. Sometimes when we have some kind of intestinal upset and we can't keep water and food down, we can become dehydrated. If it gets bad enough, we're going to need medical attention. Water is such an important thing because it's what our bodies are made of. We are made of water, and we need water because water for us is life. And so that's what Jesus is dealing with at this point, this very physical need that he has. But what are you thirsty for on this particular Good Friday? A pastoral colleague, Gavin Walton, mentioned the fact that this is a catastrophe, but it's not a nuclear catastrophe. We can go outside. Nature has not been ruined. And one of the things that means is that our water supply is safe. You might go to the grocery store, you can't find toilet paper, maybe you can't find your favorite snack or chicken or eggs or pasta or whatever it is you're looking for, but you can come home and have water in your tap. We have an endless supply of safe water. But what are you thirsty for today? It might be that you're thirsty for human companionship, for human contact, to be able to touch somebody. Some of you are isolated in your own homes or maybe in a nursing home or someplace where you don't get to talk with people face to face, where you don't get to hug someone or just touch them on the shoulder or do the things we're used to. That's very difficult. On the other hand, some of you might be families with children home from school and parents home from work, and everybody's trying to get everything finished, and you just want a little space to be peaceful. Or maybe you just miss the everyday fun things of life, playing sports with your friends, getting to go downtown, getting to eat out in a restaurant and actually sit there and have a conversation. Just maybe even have an Easter parade or an Easter egg hunt, all those kinds of things that we're used to doing, especially in the springtime. These words of Jesus express his humanness. He felt abandoned, he felt thirsty, but in these next two words that you'll hear, we'll see that he submits to the will of his Father. Despite his own physical needs, despite his own personal needs, he is willing to finish the task and to trust his Father with his Spirit. My prayer for you today is that whatever you're thirsting for, you too are willing to be obedient to the will of the Father. And what does that look like for us right now? The bizarre thing is the most useful thing we can do in this crazy pandemic is to stay home. That doesn't usually make sense, especially those of us that are used to helping, or used to going out and visiting the lonely people, helping the sick, taking food to people, visiting people in nursing homes, all these things. And yet right now, we're being asked to do the opposite of help, it feels like. We're being asked to stay home. And it's a very strange feeling that the thing that's the most useful, that the best way to save lives is to stay home. That's really a very different experience. But remember, you are not by yourself. Christ is with you wherever you are. And so when you're feeling lonely, when you're feeling he's not there, Remember that you are not alone. Christ is present. Not only is he present, Christ is the living water. It's a wonderful reminder that it's his peace that we receive when we receive him. Here's a way that you can further think on this meditation. Get yourself a glass of water from the tap, just plain water, no ice. And just take some time with this glass of water and think about, what are you thirsty for? What does this represent? If Christ is really the living water, what does this mean for you? What are you longing for? And then slowly drink the water and just imagine that Christ is filling your whole being. Receive what he has for you. Know that he is meeting your every need. Acknowledge your thirst and allow him to quench it in whatever way is needed. That is my prayer for you today.